He says, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me, verse 11, otherwise believe me because of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works than these he shall do, because I go to my Father. Now, by the way, why is it that we assume the works he's referring to here have to do with healings and casting out demons? Why do we assume that's the works he's talking about? When Yeshua said the reason he showed up on this planet in the flesh, did he say it was to do miracles and healings? Did he say that? Did he say he came to do signs and wonders? What did he say he came to do? To find the lost sheep of Israel. He said, I've not come except for the lost sheep of Israel. Those are the works that he was doing. The works of speaking truth through confusion, teaching proper balance when it comes to how to handle traditions, and encouraging people to walk out the Torah in spirit and truth. Spirit being the fullness of the intent and truth being the mechanics. And so those are the works he was doing. So when he says here, look, the works that I'm doing, that person shall also do, even greater works than these he shall do. I want to understand from that verse, why do we think that that means, juggling and playing with snakes or healing people and from blindness and making the lame walk and all this? Why do we think that that's what that verse has anything to do with? Why should that verse have anything to do with that? And so people will say, oh, where are the works in the body today? Where do we see the signs and the wonders? We're only seeing it in the mainstream churches. Because that's not what he's talking about here, in my opinion. There's nothing in John chapter 1 or even anywhere since John 13 where they had the Last Supper and this is all going on. There's nothing in there that even hints at healings and casting out demons and other things like that. That's not the works he's talking about. He's about to plant and begin just a little ripple that's about to shake the whole world for thousands of years. That's a work. That is a work and a half. I mean, that's an unbelievable work. Well, I shouldn't say unbelievable. It's a very believable work. So then he says, after saying all of that and saying, truly, truly, I say to you, who believes in me. By the way, he says, believes in me. What are we believing in? Him as the Messiah. Him as the right hand of the Father, him as the high priest, him as the Word, him as the Torah, him as the light, him as the truth, him as the way, him as life. If you believe in all that, he says, in greater works than these you shall do. Because why? Because I go to my Father. He says, truly, truly, I say to you, who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works. So what works was Yeshua doing? I don't know, he kept the Sabbath, he kept the feast, he ate properly. He kept the Torah, he did everything. The word works there is always referring to Torah observance. He says, and the Torah observance that I do, you shall do also. Because guess what? When he came, how good was Israel's Torah observance or the Jews' Torah observance when he showed up? Not very good. Wrapped up and steeped in tradition over Torah, wrapped up and steeped in hypocrisy, wrapped up and steeped in just the mechanics and not the fullness of the intent. I mean, Yeshua's very first instructions was when he first was starting to teach had to do with, it says in the Torah not to murder, or it says in the Torah not to commit adultery, but I'm going to tell you there's a deeper level to that, there's a fullness of the intent of that you guys have ignored or have not been aware of. This is the works that he's doing. He came to not only set the pace, to set the example for us, but also to clarify what Torah really was supposed to be. What the Torah really was supposed to be. So now with that whole foundation where he goes, if you'd known me, you'd have known my Father, and he says all of these things about setting up a place where he's going to be, we'll always be with him, and he goes about the truth, the way, and the life. All of this leads to verse 13, and he says, and whatever you ask in my name. Now, the whatever you ask in my name comes right after he says, he who believes in me. So it's only the he who believes in me that whatever he asks in my name applies to. Can we agree on that? It doesn't apply to everybody. He says, the he who believes in me, in verse 12, the works that I shall do, he shall do also, and greater works than these he shall do, because I go to the Father. And whatever you ask in my name, that I shall do, in order that the Father might be esteemed in the Son. Now, when he says, whatever you ask in my name, you can't just ask anything and just put his name on it like it's magic. Does it make any sense here that if you use the magic Yeshua name, or Jesus when you're in the church, or whatever magic name you think it is, that now the Father has to do, or Yeshua has to do whatever you said? Because see, there's a rest of the verse there. He says, it has to be, what you ask has to be in line with bringing esteem to the Son through the Father. The Father has to be esteemed through the Son. I said it backwards the first time, I'm sorry. It's in order that the Father might receive honor. So if you ask something in His name that is not Torah-based, that is not honoring of the Father, you think Yeshua is going to do it? He says, if you ask whatever in my name that's honoring to the Father, that I will do. Let's rearrange the words a little bit in here so it makes more sense. Verse 13, and whatever you ask in my name that will honor the Father, that I shall do. Does that make a little more sense? Because esteem simply is talking about honor. Okay, so if it's not honoring of the Father, and by the way, how do we know what honors the Father? I don't know. How about if we just do what He says and don't do what He says not to do? That's very honoring. It's very respectful. Okay, so that's verse 13. He says, and whatever you ask in my name I shall do, provided, of course, it's going to honor the Father and bring esteem and glory and honor to the Son. Okay, because that way the Father can honor the Son. Now, why would the Father give honor to the Son? If you ask something in Yeshua's name that's dishonoring to the Father, would that give honor to the Son? Or will that embarrass the Son? Because the Son's going to be... Do you all understand how it works in the pecking order of things? That whoever is the teacher or instructor and you do what they say, okay, it's going to bring either shame or honor to the one who is that instructor's instructor. It always keeps going up the line. That's why Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Messiah. Because if you imitate him as he's imitating Messiah, then that brings honor to Messiah, which then also brings honor to Paul. So what's happening here is Yeshua is saying, if you do what's honoring to the Father, because I taught you to do it, the Father then can give me back some honor because I did the right thing teaching you. See, but if you are claiming to be a disciple, a Talmud, a student of Yeshua, and you do what's embarrassing to the Father, guess who also you're embarrassing and bringing shame to? The Son. Because you're doing it in His name. So when you do a bunch of things in His name, like they said, Lord, Lord, we did all these things in your name, and you know what? He was ashamed. Because they were dishonoring the Father and dishonoring Him because they were teachers and workers of Torahlessness. Is this all making more sense now? And so the connection has to be, we haven't even gotten into the verses that talk about the helper, because you can't even understand anything about the helper until you understand the context that he's talking about the helper in. So now he's talking about all of this stuff here. He said, look, it starts off with verse 1 of chapter 14. He says, don't be disheartened. He says, don't let your heart be troubled. So this is all about bringing comfort. He says, I'm going to where I'm going, and I'm going to prepare a place for you if you're willing to walk the path to the door. Remember the teaching that I've done on that, where I've painted the picture of you walking on the path of righteousness, the path of Torah observance, to the kingdom door. That is the way to life. That's walking in truth on the path to life. And what he's saying here is, look, don't be afraid. I'm going to prepare this place for you. If you walk on the path, you'll get to the door and you'll get in. As long as you go through me and enter into life through me. And he says, look, as part of the comfort, he says, I'm going to make sure you understand who I am and who the Father is, and you should know by now. And all of that, he comes down to say, and when I'm leaving, all these wonderful things you think I've done, you're going to do even greater things. Have we been able to do greater things in Yeshua? Look, I don't want to hold myself up on anything, but Yeshua spoke to how many thousands of people personally when he walked on the earth? Not too many thousands. Because he was literally dealing with the technology of the time and walking and standing on a hill and talking to people. So his personal works. Now, I am not saying anything about me being in any way greater than Yeshua, but when I teach right now, much more thousands and thousands of people are able to hear what I say because of technology. I mean, right now there's people on live stream hearing what I'm saying. Imagine Yeshua had all this technology. So in a sense, those today are doing greater works. We're reaching more people more quickly than he was able to do when he was on the earth as in the flesh. Does that make sense? That doesn't make us greater than him. I'm saying that this is fulfilling what he said. Greater works than I have done in my own individual personal efforts in the flesh. You guys are 12 and then 70 and 120. You're going to do more than I was able to do in my own efforts and by myself. Because now I've multiplied myself. I've duplicated myself into 12 of you, and then into 70 of you, and then 120 of you. And I'm going to tell you to go out and make more students of the nations. And so they can then duplicate this process. Do you see how that actually ends up being greater works? Not greater meaning more praiseworthy, just more of it. So not better works. So we're not looking at greater meaning that somehow we're doing something better than Yeshua. The disciples never did anything better than Yeshua ever did. So he's not talking about better. Hopefully that's important that we make sure that we clarify that. Greater doesn't always mean better. It simply may mean bigger or more of it. And so, sort of greater in terms of volume. Does that make more sense? Does that help clarify that? Because I think sometimes we think of greater meaning, well, if Yeshua healed 5, we should be healing 1,000,000, or we should be doing something that's just ridiculously over the top. No, it's not about greater when comparing the two. He's simply meaning, you're going to do a lot more than I ever did. You're going to take this message and bring it to the whole planet. Yeshua didn't do that. He brought it to a very small part of Judea, of Israel. And that part of Judea, then the people he gave it to, you and I and all over the planet now have this book to read where it talks about everything Yeshua did and said. That's greater works. Not better works, greater works. You see that? I see an INFOCUS coming on greater works. Greater, not better.